Does anyone else remember Oxygen Not Included? That wonderful colony simulator and survival game that employed a captivating 2D art style to create one of the most complex ant farm simulators I've ever had the pleasure of playing. How about Papers, Please, the unique management game which seamlessly wove interesting narratives and dark gritty stories to create an interesting and unique document checking adventure? Seriously, it's better than it sounds. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the upcoming galaxypassstation. This game is currently a work in progress by developers Galactic Workshop, and they were kind enough to provide me with a preview key for the game, which releases next month on Steam on September 14th. So what is galaxypassstation? Join me as we take a look and find out what this game is all about, and I'll share my thoughts and ask the question, is it worth a go? galaxypassstation has been described by the developers on the Steam page as a comical space station colony simulator. Build and manage an intergalactic hub for diverse alien races while tackling unexpected challenges with a comedic twist. You begin your adventure as a galactic inspector aboard the galaxypassstation with one simple objective: manage and inspect passengers traveling between Earth and the galaxies beyond. Upon starting the game, you're introduced to your trusty assistant, who guides you through the basics of the game, and shortly afterwards your first group of passengers arrive. The basic gist of galaxypassstation involves checking passengers' documents as they travel across the solar system, almost like a futuristic airport if you will. The catch here being that in similar Papers, Please fashion, you're required to check passengers' documents to make sure that they're correct and each passenger is who they say they are. Simple, right? As the game progresses, you'll encounter new species and alien races, and after a few hours you'll be hosting a whole array of lovable characters, including humans, Martians, and even cat robots. I love these little cat creatures, piloting giant mechs that look like they could crush you with one hand, although I felt kinda bad when I had to kick them out for lying about their identity. In the initial stages of the game, the document inspection process is quite basic. You'll be checking passports to compare the face of the passengers, their date of birth, and their passport logo. Simple stuff. But quickly, the complexity begins to ramp up, and the inspection process begins to get a little bit more complicated. Each species requires a slightly different process to verify. For example, robots which have a manufacture date, and you compare this against their date of birth, which I thought was extremely charming. You'll be required to follow other simple rules, such as the undeniable fact that Martians are only red or blue. Anything else must mean that they're an imposter and must be ejected from the nearest airlock. Seriously, why does this game not have an eject animation? Or maybe I'm just a masochist. Complexity is something that galaxypassstation manages to do very well in my opinion. The mechanics were introduced slowly and gave me time to understand the basics before being overwhelmed. Later down the line you'll require DNA checking machines and other facilities to complete inspections. You can also plop down various bureaucratic facilities to speed up and automate the passenger checking process, if document management is not your cup of tea. But honestly, I quite enjoyed this part of the game, especially considering the fact that the game doesn't slow down while you're checking passengers, so you're always forced to choose between helping out with the queue or to tend to some other situation which required my attention. This adds a lot of immersion and genuinely felt like I was managing a space station, but there was just something that felt off, something that wasn't quite right, and I'll get back to that later. So once you've checked your passengers in, they're free to enter the station and get comfortable. Often, passengers will stay a while, and during their stay, you're required to make sure they have everything that they need. Each passenger has their own unique characteristics and needs, requiring you to build facilities to maintain these needs, such as keeping them fed and watered through the use of vending machines, or relaxed with beds to sleep in, or if you're of the mechanical variety, a charging station to rest at. There's no discrimination here at galaxypassstation. Each passenger has their own level of satisfaction, and if this meter reaches 0, they'll leave and write you a bad review, which I thought was a nice touch. You can check your reviews and current score in the passenger guidebook. Each day you'll wake up inside your own personalised little space bedroom and tend to the chores of the station, checking passengers and maintaining facilities to keep things running smoothly. Each time you inspect passengers correctly, you'll earn a number of resources which are required to unlock new research items to unlock a host of new game mechanics and building options. The main gameplay loop of the game is actually really well done and reminds me a lot of Oxygen Not Included, but again, something just feels a little bit off. The research tree is surprisingly in depth and offers multiple upgrades from facilities at the station or new gameplay mechanics which progress the story along. Later down the line you'll even unlock the ability to research and produce various buildings, such as psychologist desks to maintain the health of your visitors, or research stations to increase your research productivity and output. These specialty buildings require a staff member to maintain, which you can hire from among the passengers at your station. The trait system allows you to pick someone who would be best for the job. For example, the nerd trait would be better for the programming job, and somebody who works quickly would be better at checking in passengers. Once your station becomes big enough, you'll need to employ trusty robots to help you build, manage, and maintain your facilities. You can install worker robots to help you keep your facilities stocked with goods, parts, and batteries, or builder robots to help you build things faster. galaxypassstation features numerous little systems which intertwine to create interesting gameplay, and eventually you'll be performing multiple tasks and making sure that facilities are maintained and rooms are clean to ensure your passengers' stay is enjoyable. To help with this, you'll have machines which produce goods and spare parts, or electrical equipment to charge batteries, all of which are required for most other facilities to function properly. The production chain aspect of galaxypassstation is great, and adds a fair amount of logistical depth to the game, and was a most welcome addition. Every now and then you'll experience random events which throw things off slightly by adding some sort of challenge or problem for the player to solve. Examples of these random events include geomagnetic storms which affect the happiness of your passengers, or giant piles of poop which need to be cleaned up. I'm not entirely sure why hundreds of poop piles have suddenly emerged in my hallways, but I won't question it. Also, the fact that poop is measured in centimeters cubed made me laugh way more than it should have. The random events were frequent enough to keep you on your toes, but not too frequent that it caused much of a problem. GalaxyPassstation offered quite a lot of content for such a small game, and considering the scope and the fact that this was created by just 2 people, I'm honestly really impressed with what the developers have managed to create, and I want to commend them for that. But as I mentioned earlier, there's just something in the back of my mind that isn't quite right. The difficulty. GalaxyPassstation offers a breadth of things to manage, maintain, tweak and twiddle, but never at any point did the game feel challenging. Even though you have a myriad of things to maintain, there was never any failure conditions. Nothing driving me forward, no reason for me to care if my station was full of poop, which happened more than once. For example, one of the main reasons why I enjoyed Oxygen Not Included so much was that because it was challenging, and I mean it was hard. You always had that sense of accomplishment and reward when unlocking new items, or understanding how to solve that new problem, because if you didn't learn how to solve it, your colony would sink, and you have to restart, and starting again was half the fun. Each time you play, you would learn how to do something better, and eventually you'd get far enough to uncover the next challenge, which would put you right back where you started. But in GalaxyPassstation, I never felt any of that. I was never really worried that I wouldn't make it to the next day, or concerned that my passengers had nowhere to sleep, or that the vending machine was out of products. It didn't matter. I left the game running for a while writing this, and nothing bad ever happened. The game just chugged along and everything was fine. Don't get me wrong, this won't be an issue to everyone playing the game, and quite honestly, there is a bit of a gap in the market for a colony simulator that doesn't make me want to launch my keyboard out the window. A casual colony simulator is a wonderful idea, but still, the game needs some sort of reason to make me want to continue playing, and install all of these wonderful gadgets and facilities in my station. The game is just too easy. So let's talk about the graphics and the sound. While not to my taste, the art style in GalaxyPassstation is great. It calls back to that cartoon style similar to Futurama, The Simpsons, Rick and Morty, and is very well done. Each passenger has their own unique look, and each race boasts a specific art style which differs enough from one another to keep things looking and feeling fresh. When you're checking a passenger's documents, you have the ability to check their passport and other credentials for differences in their appearance. One thing I particularly liked was the consideration that the passport photo and simple appearance changes didn't always have to match, which added some complexity to the game. For example, you'll need to take into account that a passenger might have a new hair color or hairstyle to what's shown on their photo, but any major facial changes are enough to reject entry. I particularly like the cat robots which meowed and purred at me happily while I checked their documents for errors. The audio in the game is pretty basic, but it works well. The soundtrack doesn't have too many variations, but the music was well done and reminded me a lot of Faster Than Light in some aspects. I have no qualms about the overall look, feel and sound of the game. By a similar respect, the UI was fine and used a simple 8-bit style which worked well, considering the amount of screens and systems in the game which displayed all the information I needed at all times. I never felt like I was missing something. Another nice touch that I appreciated was the fact that sometimes the UI systems take place in the game world itself. For example, each day you retire back to your bedroom and you must click on your bed to go to sleep. This is a feature that didn't have to be in the game. The developers could simply have plopped down a button on the screen that you click and the next day starts. This is what I mean when I say that the developers clearly have a love and passion for the game that they're creating. They didn't have to go to the trouble of spending the time in places that they did, and I respect that. It makes the game better. Overall, I have a bit of a divided opinion on GalaxyPassstation. On the one hand, there are a lot of great elements which contribute to a charming and enjoyable experience. I genuinely had fun with this game. On the other hand, there were a few issues which diminished my enjoyment of the game, particularly my main issue being the lack of difficulty, which I've already discussed. But there were also a few other bugs which gave me a few headaches along the way. For example, the UI seems to have some inconsistencies and led me to not understanding why or how certain things worked, such as the passenger count, which didn't report the number of passengers correctly, and a minor bug which showed inconsistencies in the contents of my checkout at the shop. Of course, this game is still in beta, so I'm not going to discuss bugs too much as they could be fixed by the time the game is released. Aside from these general UI issues, I also encountered quite a few issues in the text and found that a lot of the English in the game was a little bit off in places, which I expect is due to localization issues. Don't get me wrong, the game has some wonderful bits of reading and it was well written overall, but I think some polish and shine here is needed to make this a bit better. It is a little immersion breaking when I notice something that doesn't read quite right, and these breaks in immersion are what will lose players' interest in the long term. I also experienced a bit of a performance drop in the late game when I had a large bustling station. This wasn't a major issue, but the game ran buttery smooth at the start, and by the time I had a few hours under my belt, the game began to slow down with noticeable frame drops. Although I've got to say, in terms of stability, the game ran flawlessly. I had no crashes or stuttering or anything like that, but some performance fixes are definitely required for the late game. It's clear that GalaxyPassstation is a real passion project for the developers of the game, and I saw lots of flashes of great moments while playing, and it's great to see. In one instance, I experienced a pretty game-breaking bug, which I reported to the developer, and to my surprise, he acknowledged and fixed it within 2 hours, which I thought was incredible. Overall, Galaxy Pass Station is an interesting blend of colony simulation mechanics and management gameplay, and I did enjoy my time with the game. The developers stated to me that the game will be $10 when it comes out next month on Steam, and will have a 15% discount on release. So for the price of around $8 or $9, I would absolutely recommend giving this game a go, provided that some of the UI bugs and issues are fixed. If the developers manage to fix and polish this game, I would absolutely say that this could become something special later down the line. Considering that it was made by 2 people, you can tell a lot of hard work and love has gone into this game, and it really shows through. I hope the developers continue to improve this game to make it into the incredible experience that I know it could become, and I'll certainly be keeping my eye on this one after it releases. So I hope you enjoyed this short look into Galaxy Pass Station. If you did, please hit that like button, leave a comment or subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and as always, happy inspecting.